A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, to the show, think about it. As always, if you like the content of the show and you like what we're bringing forward to you, please do remember to hit the subscribe button. Today's topic, before we begin with it, we need to address and review different current affairs that have been taking place. From the indigenous body count that has increased in Canada. Our hearts, our sympathy, our prayers go out to the indigenous people, to the First Nations, to the Métis, and to the Inuit. And I believe as a Canadian and as Canadians, as people who live on the soil, we need to do what we can to support the indigenous people, support their rights. Their history hasn't received that much light, even though they've been screaming and shouting. Unfortunately, not many people have been hearing them. And so now we all need to step up. Over 700 bodies have been found from the last count of 215. As gory as this number is, we all need to step up, and we all need to do something within our own capacity to be a benefit to community and society, instead of shoving things aside or not looking at them. From the atrocities that are continuing to happen in Palestine, with the new government in and the ceasefire being broken by the Israeli authorities and the IDF, as I've mentioned this before and I will mention this again, a very big terrorist organization is what the IDF is. Because at the end of the day, you claim self-defense against a nation that does not have an army, a nation that does not have people, a nation that is dying and crippling day by day with no defense, nowhere to go, nothing to do, locked in an open air cage. We need to stand up and rise against atrocity. I really don't have the time or the patience or even the mind to debate people who would take the Zionistic point of view and try to argue and try to advocate it. Zionism has nothing to do with religion. Zionism is an evil cult. Zionism is something that is within the core of all that is evil in this world right now at this very moment. Zionism is what got diaspora to happen, the Jews to be exiled from their land. In fact, if you take a look at Jews, you have two types, Sephardic and Ashkenazic, right? These two types, Ashkenazic Jews, are known to be people who are from Germany, while Sephardic are known to be the ones who came from Spain. Nowhere does it state Jerusalem, Al-Quds, or Palestine. So I'm sorry, the entire argument over here is moot. It doesn't make sense. This is a political drama that is being played, a propaganda that is happening on the cost of the lives of innocent people, innocent Palestinians, innocent Muslim people. And people have to stand up and do something about it. Our prayers go out for them. Our prayers go out for all the atrocities that are taking place today around the world, for all the people who are being targeted and murdered and killed, even Uyghur Muslims in China. Our heart goes out for them. The genocide that is taking place in a lot of countries that we don't even know about, from the likes of Uganda, Somalia, in Africa, in Australia, what happened to the Aborigines there, history and stories that have been buried. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all those who have survived and give them strength and give them haqq, give them their justice. And for all those people running around saying, oh my God, I'm afraid of jihad. First off, you don't even know what jihad means. Jihad is a struggle. A person who's going out and working every single day to put food on the table for his family or her family is doing jihad. So we live in a world where labels, categorizations, terminologies, their meanings have become so vague that people, first off, don't have the time to go and educate themselves. Secondly, don't want to go and educate themselves because fossilization, hard wiring has happened growing up in this media-centric world. With all that, I haven't even begun my show yet. But my show is a bit related to what I'm about to say. We need to be able to get our message across to people. As educated people, we need to be able to talk to others in an educated manner. I have noticed from the time when I was growing up and I would go to family gatherings and I would see professors, doctors, engineers, lawyers. My father was from this, mashallah, sector of life. And I saw these people sitting down, and everybody who's very proud of being a doctor, an engineer, a professor, a lawyer, all these people that are very proud of everything that they've accomplished, and you'd imagine them to be very sophisticated, you'd imagine them to be very educated, you'd imagine them to have educated approaches on things. They did throughout their lives, but there were moments and areas where a spark that would be very much opposite to being educated would take place, and that would be arguments. So today's topic is basically debatably or arguably. Debating and arguing are two very different things. In today's world, when we're trying to prove to people, when we're trying to get our message across, which way should we be taking and which way are we actually taking? That needs to be accounted for and understood. You sit down in gatherings where people might have a difference of opinion. When you have a difference of opinion, you try to get your message across. And you speak about your own opinion, your own perspective, with evidence, with some kind of proof, with some kind of weightage that would help you and your opinion move forward. Now, if somebody does not agree or has an opposite opinion or a different perspective, nobody is saying that they cannot talk. Nobody is saying that they're not allowed to bring their perspective forward. It's how do you do it? Usually, unfortunately, even if you take the most educated people, take a look at the House of Commons in Canada when the Speaker stands and different political parties, whether you be the opposition or in power, in ruling party. If you take a look at the National Assembly or the Lok Sabha in India, or if you take a look at the Parliament in the UK, the House of Lords, unfortunately, these people who are supposed to set a precedence and show the common world and everybody who lives in it what an educated society is supposed to be are having arguments. They're not allowing one another to finish what they're trying to put forward. Their opinions, their actions, they're not allowed to finish. They get interruptions. And interrupting is not debating. Interrupting is, unfortunately, newsflash people, a sign of barbarism. Only a barbarian is a person who doesn't understand something, doesn't trust it, so eliminates it. And we call this person a barbarian because they cannot acculturate or understand things beyond their frame. And it's not that when they don't understand things, they become quiet. It's not understanding things and acting with animosity or without dignity, unethically, uneducatedly. That is what you call a barbarian. Unfortunately, if you take a look at all these political scenarios happening, you take a look at schools, workplaces, offices, whenever you see people arguing with each other, people cutting each other off amidst their sentences, amidst their explanations, unfortunately, newsflash, it's an uneducated and a barbaric thing to do. And that's what we're talking about today. With more, I'm going to be back right after this break. So stay tuned and think about it.
पाकिस्तान का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सिला. Home delivery is available subject to minimum order and radius. Also available at your neighborhood fresh co. मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कांटेक्ट करें 5146630480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से. बनाएं ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ द प्रीमियम चॉइस फॉर प्रीमियम टेस्ट.
खुशियों भरे लम्हात में मिलाकर कदम से कदम बढ़ता है कारवां. गुनगुनाते मुस्कुराते पलों में दोस्ती की रौनकें बढ़ाए. जे. जुनेद जमशेद Eid-ul Azha men's collection now in stores and online.
$2020 का लाजवाब ऑफर जहां हम 0% फाइनेंसिंग पर आपकी मनपसंद कार दे रहे हैं, फ्री विंटर टायर्स और साथ ही हम मुफ्त ऑयल चेंज भी दे रहे हैं, वो भी उम्र भर के लिए. अभी आएं और इस लाजवाब ऑफर का लुत्फ लें. जल्दी करें, आपका खुशामदीद हमारे आउटलेट में, जो कि 60 क्वींस प्लेट ड्राइव एट इंटरसेक्शन क्लोज टू हाईवे 27 एंड रेक्सडेल अपोजिट टू वुडबाइन रेस ट्रैक। जल्द से जल्द इस ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। आज ही कॉल करें सुनील अग्रवाल को 647-703-0218।
KK Travel believe in providing everyone the first-class customer service. We take care not only for your air ticket, but dignity and respect as well. We are available for you anytime on WhatsApp, even while you are in Pakistan or any other destination. KK Travels guarantee lowest prices and are open to price match any airline.
We are KK Travels under supervision of Gas Khan at 905-367-9433 or visit www.gaskhontravels.com.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the show. Think about it. We left off talking about debatably or arguably. Two things that people have very much misunderstood in today's day and era and time. Arguments are never, ever regarded as an educated aspect of life. Arguing is always looked at as a derogatory term, as a negative term, as a term that is not positive in any way or form. Debating, in fact, is looked at as a more educated system and mode and platform of getting your message across. In fact, in schools, you have debate competitions. In fact, in national assemblies, in House of Commons, in parliaments, in workplaces, in ministries, you are expected to debate. You're expected to bring a story forward and mention your position, your opinion in its entirety. That means completely. And once you have finished and once you are done with explaining whatever you had to, the other side, the opposition, someone who might have a different perspective, a different opinion to you, gets the chance to speak and gets the chance to present maybe their argument against you. You call it an argument, but basically their notion against you and how they might not agree with you and how they might have their own evidence to support why they don't agree with you. A debate is supposed to be an educated medium of development. So if I were to walk forward, I have mentioned this before and I have actually asked people to come onto the show if they like. I called out ministers, I called out member of parliaments, I called out chiefs and different people and anybody in any capacity who wants to actually come on down and have a debate. Talk about your point of view. I believe with every evidential support and every anecdotal support that I have as well about the different things that I state on this show. Whether it be the fact that I believe that IDF, the Israeli Defense Force or whatever it is in fact a terrorist organization. I believe things in Canada have not been happening correctly over the past few years. I believe skeletons are coming out of the closet now, which should be addressed. They shouldn't be set aside. They should be looked at, catered to. And the wrong that has happened should be made right. It's too late. People are scarred. That is true. But what can be done for a more prosperous and a more brighter future? That is what should be spoken on. That's what should be done. That's what should be implemented. So a debate is when a person says what they have to say completely. And then another person comes up with a different opinion and goes against the person who spoke first. In a debate, you're allowed to go back and forth, have various turns. But also, you could educate one another. So when you're having a debate with someone and you say, I believe X, Y, Z, and the other person says, but I believe in A, B, C. And at the end of the debate, taking a few turns, you come to a common ground and you say, oh, E is something that makes sense. And so both parties walk away more educated, a bit more developed, and they had their opportunity to express their opinions, express their stance. Now, this is everything that I've talked about in a very professional environment. The second point is upbringing. In households, when parents argue with each other, why cannot it be turned into debating? Why can't it be that a husband speaks to a wife, says what he has to say, and then the wife listens in its entirety and says what she has to say, if they have different opinions on something? And they don't cut each other off. They don't interrupt each other. And they can take as many turns as they like. Those conversations can go on all night, all day, all evening. There's no problem with that. The problem is that when you have kids in the house, when you have children, and an argument strikes, and people start interrupting each other, do you not think that those kids will look at what's going on and learn from it? And then they will start interrupting other people, not just because they're having an argument or a difference of opinion, but just because they have learned the concept of interruption. There's a very important story. It's not about debating, but it's about how kids learn things really quickly, how they're sponges, how even a small action or a phrase can teach them a heavy lesson. There was a boy who was playing with toy cars, and his uncle had bought him some toy cars to play with. So the boy was playing, and the mother called the boy to eat, and the boy gets up and goes. Another uncle comes into the room and takes a look at the toy car and says, "Oh wow, these are really nicely made. I wish we had things like this when we were younger." And the uncle who bought the car says, "Oh yeah, I bought them from Toys R Us or whatever store he mentions." And then the kid comes back and looks at the uncle and says, "That's my toy. Can I have my car?" And the uncle says, "Oh no, but this is mine. This is my toy. It's not yours." And for a split second, that child looks around and says, "Oh," looks under the table, looks under the bed, looks around, and then looks at the uncle and figures out that the uncle has just lied. This is a heavy lesson for a kid, because now that kid is going to go and pick up another kid's toy and says, "This is mine." Do we not see that upbringing, that fact, that moment where you have a blank slate that can learn anything, is being affected by everything you do and everything you say? And this isn't just about very young children. I'm talking about kids and adolescents as well. If there's a 13, 14-year-old boy or a girl, if there's a 15, 16-year-old boy or a girl, you have kids who are about to go to university. If they find their parents, if they find their elders, if they go to gatherings, family parties, alhamdulillah, after this COVID pandemic has hit, we have some leniency. Families can meet each other. Barbecues are taking place. People are going out, hopefully following the SOPs and the protocols. You will see people who are talking to each other. And unfortunately, this is statistics that talk. Over 87% of conversations which include two different opinions end in interruptions. Interruptions means arguments. So these kids who are 15, 16 looking at adults, people, uncles, aunts, family, friends, cutting each other off when they're talking, they're learning how to interrupt others. In fact, they're learning that it's okay to interrupt others. Debating is not the same. If you allow people to finish what they say and then you speak, the child has just learned the value of respecting others. Because when you respect others, you allow them to finish. So at the end of the day, what we have to think about is whether or not we're moving forward with the line of barbarism, which means interrupting people, not letting people finish. If it's something that we don't understand, we don't accept, we are quick to react on. Or are we presenting our ideas and opinions and making room to understand others as well? Give them a chance to speak, whether you agree with them a little bit or you disagree with them entirely. Are we doing it debatably or are we doing it arguably? Think about it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Inshallah, see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.